Welcome to ADHD Kids Can Thrive. I've got a very fun guest for us today. His name is Jacob, and you'll find him on Instagram and Twitter. Are you on Facebook, Jacob?
No, just those two.
Okay, Instagram and Twitter. And his name is, his handle is ADHD Father UK. So, Jacob, where are you joining us from today?
From Bristol in UK. So most people, if they're not from the Bristol, UK, say it's the home of Banksy, the artist. Most people know it.
Oh,
as
yes,
the
I
home
know
of
Banksy. Yes, he's a very
so Banksy
cool
was
artist.
born and bred in Bristol.
Do you know him?
My dad actually randomly used to be his promoter in the 90s. So my dad did his first art show in this block of flats and did a lot of stuff with him in the early 90s. So we've got a Banksy piece in from when I was a little boy. We kept hold of it.
Very smart. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, and he just had an exhibit out here that we went to. Yeah, he's big time now. He's global. Yeah. So that's great. Okay. So Jacob, tell us, I've been following you as we were talking before we started this video. Over probably the last 10 years, I found you just in my own personal journey because you were a man advocating for ADHD. And I was just really curious about the kind of things that you had to share and had to say. So tell us, what I'm more curious about is, why are you advocating as a man with ADHD? What is your wisdom that you're trying to impart on others?
So I was diagnosed with ADHD at 13, 34 now. So about 20 years ago. And back then, only I would say the last 5 years, has there been this big social media presence where people are wanting to learn more about ADHD and like the podcasts and stuff like that. So from the age of about 13 to about 25, 26, I never knowingly met someone with ADHD. There wasn't an ADHD online community. So that upbringing was quite, at times, feeling very isolated, very on my own. Back then, ADHD wasn't talked about as neurodiversity. It was mental health. You had a mental health difficulty. And so I wanted to from setting, I suppose, this community up. It came from my wife getting pregnant with my daughter. And I looked at sort of what support there was out for girls with ADHD, because we knew we were going to have a girl. And I was shocked to see actually there wasn't much out there, and not much, no one really talking about it. There was definitely no one when I started. I remember Googling, trying to find parents with ADHD who were talking about their experiences, and there was no one out there. So I thought, let's talk about my own experiences. And I think as well, I wanted young, now it's sort of evolved. I think I speak mainly now to new parents who have got children who are quite early on in their diagnosis journey. And I always think it's good for them to see representation at the end of the scale, not just at the young scale, and go, actually, without ADHD, I probably wouldn't be as happy and as fulfilled with my life as I am now. And I think ADHD has good bits and bad bits, and I use the good bits to my advantage, and I don't do much of the bad bits.
Good.
And I think it's good. I think it's good for parents to go, actually, my mum always says it when we go to play groups with my mum, and she sees, a mum or a dad struggling with a young child who's full of energy, and my mum will go up to him and go, my son was exactly the same when he was your age, and now look at him, he's doing all right, he's happy, so it will get easier. And I think it's that holding hope and saying, actually, it will end up well.
Right. How does it end up well? So let me ask you, what do you think your parents did to support you that kind of helped you grow up to be this man with a good sense of self-esteem? How did that happen?
I'd love to say, I think it's in a nice way. There wasn't an ADHD community. There wasn't now as a parent, you can do loads of online searching. It was just books. I think they did a bit of reading. I think there was some of the stuff they did was normalize it. They they spoke about it and they made me know what ADHD is and talked about it. And it wasn't, being a naughty boy. It was just, this is part of you. And it's how we work with that. Some of the stuff they did was actually treat me the same as my brothers. And sometimes that was good and sometimes that was bad. But I think realistically, it was just, I think I went through those real struggles that all parents, I imagine my parents went through those struggles that all ADHD parents go through. And as an ADHD, I had to learn from making those mistakes. I would love to say they did something really life-changing, but they didn't. They just did the normal thing that most people did. But I think what they did was they normalized it. And it wasn't a naughty word. It wasn't shameful or guilt or anything like that. It was just, this is Jacob. He's got ADHD. And it was a normal thing in the family. It wasn't like something to be guilty or shameful about. And I think looking back now as a dad, that's something that I really hold close to me, that actually, yeah, that's what I think they did well.
How did it go for you in school? How was your school dynamics?
I think that's I went to two schools. The first school, just there was no knowledge of ADHD. I think they were just talking about it in education. So I was just putting all the bottom classes with all the naughty kids. And there are kids without ADHD that are naughty. So I just put with all of them and nothing really changed. I just, I wasn't ever going to learn anything in those classes. And then I moved school to a school that were a bit more forward thinking. And then I think the thing that changed was, I think my mum always pushed, we weren't from a family with loads of money. And my mum always said, I was brought up by my mum. She said, if there's any school groups you want to go to, don't worry about money. I'll always, just tell me, we'll find the money. And that was something I always think there must have been times that would have been really tricky to find money to put me in classes. And then I showed an interest in drama. She just pushed me with that massively and helped me use, I suppose, my ADHD extra energy. And that all came out in performing arts and then sports. And I say that to sort of young parents now, whatever their interest is with your ADHD child, push it to the moon. If that's acrobatics, push them in classes. If it's swimming, let's get them in as many swimming classes as you can afford. And, use it as a benefit.
And use it to balance if school isn't as fun or a little boring.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think,
or to give them and to feed what they really can excel at.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. I think looking back, my parents, with any sort of ADHD, there's, like I said at the beginning, there's things I'm good at and things I'm not so good at. The things I was good at, they really praised it, really pushed it and said, oh, fantastic. And things I got in trouble for, they weren't too heavy on me. I don't know if I was the youngest of three, so I probably got away with a bit more anyway. But I remember a couple of times thinking I got away lightly with that. I don't know why, but I got away lightly. So yeah, I think they sort of knew that some things were just impulsive, and looking like straight away, I knew I'd made a mistake as soon as, whatever that was. But I think my mum always thought, and it's not an ADHD thing, she said, whenever you get in trouble, as long as you apologize straight away, there's not much they can get back at you if you hold on to that sort of anger and sort of. So I remember as soon as I get in trouble, I go, sorry, yeah, really sorry. And then there was not much they could do from that.
As long as you owned it as a mistake.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, that's great advice. If you just kind of cop to it early on.
Yeah.
Good strategy, Jacob.
Yeah, I don't know if it worked like this. Sometimes I definitely didn't mean it, but I was like, I'm sorry. Yeah. As an adult, I don't think you can get away with that as much, but as a child, definitely get away with it.
Right. Okay. And then I saw you often post like you're a big athletic fan, soccer fan, right?
Football
and I have,
fan.
and I have seen you post too about how you use like going outside and stuff as a way to like kind of reset yourself, being outdoors.
Yeah, definitely.
Posted a little bit about how the advocating that really makes a difference and can help you kind of move forward back into the daily grind of life.
I think like I remember watching, I can't remember what it was. I must have been like 21, 22, watching a documentary on, it was called like Blue Water, and it was about protecting sharks. And there was this guy who was a deep sea, like deep divers who could dive like meters and meters down. And he was always told, like, it's just a bit of a hobby. And I remember him saying, like, if I become an expert at this, then people will start paying me. And then, so I remember thinking, well, I really like working in mental health, and I love being a promoter, running groups or activities or events. And I was like, well, if I do this, marry both of them together, if I become good enough at it, then someone will pay me to do it as a job. And that's sort of how it sort of worked now. So obviously my normal job, I will see people in the community who are struggling. But what we did with sort of the football group and all that, we know traditionally a lot of the members that come of ours have struggles, are adults with ADHD, either unmedicated or they in England, the system with ADHD is broken. So people have a diagnosis but won't be able to access medication. So we knew there was something about traditionally in football, you're taught it at a young age. So we'd get men come into the group, get them playing football. And really the football is the thing that gets them in, but it's the exercise and being around others with that lived experience. That is what is so helpful. And there's something about being outside. I think for my ADHD, there's something about, I wouldn't say I'm a huge football fan. I don't watch it really. I enjoy playing it with friends, but not really competitively. I think it's just, I love that outdoor space. And I think it's can be so positive to people and so proactive.
So you do that for kids now?
So it's just adults. So adults.
Oh, adults. Okay.
Yeah. So it's 18 plus. So our oldest member is 65. And our youngest is probably about 18. And then what we try and do is there's a lot of professional football clubs that are local. So we'll get other footballers, like professional footballers, to come to the group who've got lived experience of maybe struggling with depression, anxiety, bipolar. And some of them have openly talked about it out on their social media and in the public. And some of them, they haven't at all. So they'll maybe discuss it with our members privately. And there's something about
that's fantastic.
Hearing someone in the public eye talk about their own struggles, it makes you just everyone feel on the same level human, and you can go, and for someone who's struggled to go, actually, this is someone who's on, £5,000 a week or something. You would think they've got the best life in the world, but if they say, no, I struggle the same as you, I think it just cuts them down and shows them actually they are human. And we all struggle.
That's fantastic. Okay. And then are you a mental health professional too? Where you work one-on-one?
So when I was, my mum's mum went into mental health. Then my mum went into mental health. So my mum's a mental health nurse. Then my two brothers went in, and then I got into it. So my dad was a promoter and barber. So I think I got the promotion side from him. And then the mental health side from my mum. So and then like the team I work in now is first episode psychosis. So I'll go and see people who are struggling with first episode psychosis in their houses, in the community. My job really is to sort of build them up and let them know that this is normal. We all struggle. It's just not everyone talks about it as much as me probably, but it's about normalizing it. And we've massively seen an increase on our caseload of people with ADHD. My mum works in the prison services now, and she said a third of the men in the prison services in England have got ADHD.
Right.
So I think now we're seeing in England there's a big push. There's a huge increase in England, and they're wondering why that is. But I think it's just avenues like this, people talking about it through podcasts, through videos, through social media, and highlighting it, which is great.
Yeah. And I think you don't need to go down the path of going to prison, right? If you get help early on.
Yeah. And
it's all early intervention. Good
definitely.
Parents understanding what's going on.
When I was a kid, I remember going for an appointment, and they would say the average, most ADHD boys will be either get in trouble for petty crime and be in prison or the juvenile system. And ADHD girls will have unprotected sex and have loads of babies. And I remember just being like, I'm pretty sure I don't want to go through the criminal system. So how's this work? And if that's a professional telling you at like 10 years old, it's like you're going to get in trouble with the police.
Right.
Bonkers. And so it's about I think it's about, for me, really supporting people and going, actually, there are other avenues. ADHD, yes, like I said, there's some really difficult bits, but if you use the bits you're good at, you can achieve some amazing things. And the people on social media show that. Like, I've met some amazingly talented people that are so creative, so passionate. They've set up their own businesses or their podcasts, and they do all these amazing creative things. So if you can use your creative juices, I think, or get your child to use and sort of guide them through those tricky bits, they'll do amazing things.
Yeah, I love that, Jacob. I love what you're doing in your life too.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, you found your path too. You're clearly a very empathetic person and very understanding, and you're using your talents to help others. It's fantastic.
I think, yeah, that's the thing. Like, my employer, they know, like, we've had very open chats, and I said to them, if you want to get the best out of your money, this is what you need to push me for. Push all that, and then this is the stuff I'm not so good at. So let's not do too much of that. And they get that. They could be like, nah, let's get you to do. And I'm lucky my team are very creative. It's always like, in England, an early intervention team has always been known for being very creative and passionate. So I'm lucky there that they understand. And also that I'm able to talk about my ADHD and challenge we had a meeting last week and sort of challenge sort of old stereotypes about ADHD, and they completely know. I think they get that I'm an expert by experience, whereas other areas maybe they don't see that. But yeah, I'm lucky that I've got a supportive team around me.
Absolutely. I have discovered that those who actually have ADHD are the best experts.
Mm.
And if you can find them in therapy or in teachers, they're an incredibly supportive group to kids and adults.
Yeah, I think like there's something about ADHDers that just look at something, whatever that is, slightly different. And so in a team, it's great to have someone like that because they're always going to bring different ideas.
Yeah.
And so, if you look at places like Google and all these huge companies, Apple, the neurodiversity in that team, in these areas is huge because they get it. They get that ADHD. I think something like there's a ridiculous high statistic of architects that have ADHD because the way they look at the maps and the plans is so different. So yeah, I think there's something about our brains that I always say to people, it's that lack of fear in asking the question. I always think people, if you don't ask, you don't get. So I've got no fear in speaking to a footballer and saying, well, why wouldn't you come to our football group? Why wouldn't you do this? Da, da, da. And that lack of fear to go, yeah, let's just set up a group. What's the worst case scenario? It doesn't work. Let's try it again. So we don't have that filter of that fear of trying something new. And as an ADHD parent, there can be good bits of that and bad bits of that. I think like today, we've had a non-stop day of like activities for the kids. And sometimes I always think that's great for the kids, but then sometimes like today, at the end of it, I thought, should I have maybe done a little bit less? And then they would have maybe enjoyed it a little bit more. But I think my dad probably had ADHD, and some of my best memories of being a child is that sort of him just going, right, let's just all get in the car and go on a drive around the corner, find this fair we didn't even know was there. And then we go for a drive and a walk through like the woods and let's pick up some wild mushrooms. Those sort of weird and just impulsive things. As an adult now, those are some of my favorite memories as a child.
I love that. He sounds fun.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, Jacob, do you have any other words of wisdom? You've said
I think like
a lot of great stuff.
For me, it's like if you're a parent of an ADHD child, I think however hard it is at this stage, and being a parent for a young child anyway, it's really hard. So if you put the ADHD stuff in there, it's going to be at times really tricky, but just know it will get better. I always say to the parents, the best advice is just to do your research here and not just like hear medical people talking about ADHD. The best advice is hearing people with lived experience that talk about their experiences, the real ADHD of how you go through that, and know that actually all these children want is that they love and time and presence, that you're there. And it's not, I say this to a lot of parents, it's not how your ADHD child can live in your family and cope and deal with your life. It's how that family can live in that amazing, magical ADHD person's life, and how they will, as a family, you will need to change your ways, because it's about how you can make it more, not accessible, but just more kinder for that ADHD person, because it might be difficult at the beginning, but I can guarantee you long term, it's the best thing you can do.